Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's kick off this story with the tale of moldy yogurt, a corporate shrug, and one chronically ill customer who said, "Nope, not today." But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Corporate ignored my moldy yogurt complaint, so I called the health department. Okay, so this happened about a year or so ago. I lived paycheck to paycheck at the time due to only being able to work part-time due to my disability. Now 21, still part-time at another job with more hours, but still managing to scrape by. So I would frequently shop at a store in our area that would claim to help your wallet out. It really didn't sometimes, but if you knew where to look, the store lived up to its slogan name. Here lies the issue. The store is also known for sometimes not rotating stock properly, thus you may get goods that are out of date. For certain items, no biggie. Other no. I lived with my sister at the time, and once we had gotten meat that was expired by 6 months and we hadn't noticed till we'd gotten home, we were so frustrated that we called ahead of time and then went and asked for a refund. We were more wary after that. A couple weeks after, I decided to buy yogurt from them, the single-serve cups, because I wanted a snack. It was still within its best by date, and I was excited, only to be revolted when I got home to open it and see mold growing on the top in the corner. What the hell? Immediately, I called the store. They asked if I wanted a refund and to bring in the product and my receipt. I said no, it was barely $1 yogurt. I wanted to let them know it had mold and give them the batch so they could be aware and do what they needed. Now, what I can remember was them saying this: I can speak to my manager and let them know about the complaint, but if you don't want a refund, there's not much we can do. You have to call corporate. This wasn't a complaint in my opinion, it was a valid health concern, especially considering prior incidents. What if the other containers had mold and someone didn't notice and got sick? I myself am disabled and could have gotten deathly ill if I'd consumed the mold due to my slow digestive system, and at the time I had a GJ tube for gastroparesis. Can I speak to your manager actually? I hated that I asked that, but they obliged without much fuss, thankfully. But while he gave me his business email to give a copy of my complaint, he said the same about calling corporate. Could I have called the actual company who made the yogurt? Well, fun fact, the store makes the yogurt brand, so that's actually the corporate office. It was the same phone number for complaints for products, thankfully, as I made sure to check. But I digress. I called corporate, filed a complaint, gave the batch number, submitted my photos, and waited. I waited a week. I also had emailed the manager of the store with the complaint for his side with no response. I expected that. By this time, I went back to the store for something else. I think some bottled water. I glanced at the yogurt, just by curiosity, and what do I see? The same damn yogurt. Same date, same batch number, same everything. By this time, the yogurts were days out of date. In my opinion, they should have been rotated out in clearance day of or the day before their best by date. But to still have them a week later, especially when a customer has complained of finding mold? Something just snapped. I know corporate business takes a while to process, but the websites had said it was resolved within like half of the time after I made the complaint, yet the person on the phone had sounded concerned, but something along the chain of the report it didn't stick, so obviously someone didn't care. But I knew who would. I pulled out my phone, I took pictures of the yogurt on the shelves and proof of the date they were taken and some other things I believe too I found. I went home and found pictures of the 6-month expired meat. They had timestamps, too. Do you know how fast you can find your local county health department? Fairly quick with the right keywords. You can also sometimes find the public routine inspections. Theirs were meh, but it looked like they were due for new ones, so a quick email was all it took, explaining how corporate wasn't really responding or taking it serious. The store wasn't taking it seriously, and the violations I had experienced, I attached all the images I had collected. I paused. Maybe corporate hadn't told the store to pull it yet? No, their store's known for being lax on rotating stock and taking complaints with a grain of salt. I hit send. I do remember vividly that within 3 days I had an email from the manager of the store. Shocking. He did get my email then. He was offering a refund on the yogurt again, but this time without needing my receipt. apologizing for the inconvenience that the experience had for me basically, which was wild in my opinion. I didn't respond. I didn't want a refund, I told them that. But the next time I was brave enough to go in about a day later, the yogurt had been restocked completely, as well as other things that I had mentioned in my report, like the meats. Now I rarely see anything past a few days, if that. They've become smarter at marking stuff down, too. Now it really does help our wallet sometimes. You did the right thing. You told them they didn't listen, then you took it upon yourself to do something, not just for you, but also for others. Food poisoning and lawsuits? That's the end for them. And our second story. Want me to invite the entire class to a birthday party? Okay. My coworker has 3 daughters, and his youngest, who's in 6th grade, is the last one still regularly spending time with him. The older 2 more or less drifted away once they hit middle school, which, let's be honest, is pretty common. So when the youngest asked to have a big birthday party, he saw it as a special opportunity, a sort of last hurrah before she too started growing up and becoming more independent. She decided she wanted the party at a roller skating rink, a classic choice. My coworker didn't hold back. He went all out and rented the entire place for the evening. It was going to be a private event with just her friends and family, no strangers, no overlapping parties, just a night of skating, pizza, and birthday cake. She invited most of her classmates and a few kids from other grades she was friends with, plus cousins and neighbors. Everything was on track until she brought home a letter from her school that she'd been asked to deliver to her dad. The letter was from the school administration and stated that due to the district's anti-bullying policy, students were not allowed to distribute party invitations at school unless every student in their class was invited. Now, on paper, the policy makes some sense. Nobody wants kids to feel left out, and middle school can be brutal socially. But here's the kicker. A couple of the kids in her class were seriously problematic. One kid was known for making openly racist comments, and it even made threats about bringing weapons to school. Yes, actual threats. Another had a long history of aggressive behavior and once threw a chair across the classroom, injuring 2 other students badly enough that they needed stitches. So naturally, she didn't want either of them at her party, and her dad backed her up completely. Still, he wanted to avoid violating the policy. She was even willing to extend invitations to a few other kids she wasn't close with, just to avoid problems. But the violent ones? That was a hard no. That's when he told me about the situation at work, and I asked if the roller rink had required any kind of deposit. He said, yeah, they had a $200 security deposit in case of damages. That's when I had a light bulb moment and said, tell those kids if they want to come, they need to bring their own $200 damage deposit. Refundable, of course. And it worked like a charm. Unsurprisingly, none of the problematic kids, or their parents, were willing to fork over a $200 deposit just for a birthday party. That gave my coworker a perfectly reasonable out. Technically, those kids weren't excluded, but they also didn't show up. In the end, the party went off without a hitch. The birthday girl had an amazing time, everyone else behaved themselves, and my coworker got the memorable celebration he hoped for. Sometimes a little clever thinking's all it takes. Making you invite everybody sounds like an overreach of the school's authority. What happens if you don't? Fines? School gonna give the parents detention? And our last story. Karen had my deployed brother's car towed. A few months ago, my grandmother and I were dealing with a particularly annoying issue involving our neighbor, Karen. Karen has lived next door for years, and she's always had an unhealthy obsession with our household, acting like she's the HOA president of the neighborhood, even though no HOA actually exists. Karen has tried to get into our business countless times, whether it's over who's visiting, who's parked in our driveway, or any minor thing she decides to get worked up over. Now, Karen's latest stunt involved my little brother's car. He's currently deployed in Hawaii as a Marine, and naturally his car has been sitting in our driveway for a while. The car wasn't an eyesore, it wasn't causing any issues, and it was parked in our driveway on our property. But somehow this set Karen off. She decided that the car, which had been parked there for a couple of weeks, was a problem that she needed to solve by calling a tow truck to have it removed. Her reasoning? The car was just sitting there, and she didn't know whose car it was. Never mind that it was our property and that my brother's deployment was the reason it was parked there. So one day, while my grandmother and I were out running errands, Karen took it upon herself to call the towing company to have my brother's car towed away. The ridiculous part? My grandmother's truck had been parked in the same spot for much longer, and Karen knew exactly whose vehicle that was. But because she didn't recognize the car, she thought it was within her rights to have it removed. When we came home, we found out that the car had been towed. My grandmother immediately called the towing company and the police, furious that this had happened. The towing company wasn't open at the time, and we couldn't retrieve the car until the next day. To make matters worse, we had to deal with the added cost of the tow, which was completely unnecessary and caused by Karen's nosiness. Now, I don't take kindly to anyone stepping on my toes, especially when it comes to my family and property. Karen had no right to do this, and I wasn't about to let her get away with it, so I marched right over to her house and confronted her. I told her in no uncertain terms that it was none of her business, and if she didn't want to pay for the towing fees, I would take the matter further and file a lawsuit for her unlawful interference. After a heated conversation and me standing my ground, she reluctantly agreed to pay for the towing fees. I made it clear that I wasn't going to let her get away with her entitlement anymore. I wasn't about to let her continue to meddle in our lives just because she thought she had some misplaced sense of ownership over the neighborhood. In the end, the matter was resolved, but I'm not done with her yet. I'm keeping a close eye on Karen, and I'll make sure she understands that she can't keep getting away with her intrusive behavior. As for the towing fee, it's paid, and I'm done letting this nosy old woman make our lives miserable. I'm glad you didn't let her get away with it. People like her need to learn that other folks' driveways aren't theirs to regulate. Honestly, I wouldn't blame you if you installed cameras just to have footage ready for her next community service. She's clearly not above escalating. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.